Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to take a head-to-head comparison look at two muscle cars. We have the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 against the Ford Mustang GT350. Both of these models in today's video are paired to the 6-speed manual, and these are a lot of fun to drive, very performance oriented, and very similarly priced as well. The ZL1 in today's video was right around $77,000 and the GT350 was closer to $65,000. So if you spec them right, they are going to be very similarly priced. And today we're going to take a look at all the engine specs, the exterior, the interior, and then get these out on the road and see how they perform. And we'll come back on our final thoughts on which one is better and why. We're going to start off with the ZL1, and underneath the hood is a 6.2 liter supercharged V8 paired to that 6-speed manual. It pumps out 650 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. It's rear-wheel drive, weighs in right around 4,000 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, up to its top speed of 189 miles an hour, and it has a fuel capacity of 19 gallons. The fuel economy is going to be around 14 miles per gallon in the city and 20 out on the highway. As we move over to the GT350 now, this has the 5.2 liter flat plane crank V8 paired to that 6-speed manual. Pumps out a little bit less horsepower and torque at 526 and 426. It is rear-wheel drive, weighs in closer to 3,600 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, up to its top speed of 173 miles an hour, and it has a fuel capacity of 16 gallons. You'll expect that fuel economy to be around 14 miles per gallon in the city and 21 out on the highway. And now as we work our way to the exterior, this ZL1 has a very aggressive front end design, especially for a muscle car like this. It features the canards on both sides, which just add to better aerodynamics, better performance, and to give it more of that aggressive look. Really nice lower front splitter, finished off in gloss black, and with the blue exterior color, the rest of the gloss black really makes it pop. You'll notice that all of the mesh has tons of cutouts to provide cooling to this engine. Even the Chevy bow tie is hollow to provide even more cooling. Really nice sleek headlight design in that upper grille with the LED DRLs, headlights, and turn signal. There's a lot more cutouts in the lower air inlets on both sides where you'll notice even more lighting, and it just has a really nice appearance to it. But the overall front end design is very mean. You know that this is a track focused vehicle, how aggressive the front end design is. And then up on the hood, there are functional air inlets on the back side of the gloss black piece in the center. So while it has that clean style that I mentioned earlier, you can tell that something is special about this front end. Working our way to the Mustang now, this does have functional air inlets in the hood as well. You can get these stripes, which is optional, just to give it more of that classic Mustang design. The front end is not quite as aggressive as the ZL1, but it has that traditional open grille in the upper section with the snake badge over on that left side. Still retains LED headlights, DRLs, and turn signals, and the DRLs are very iconic for the Mustang with that 3-pattern design in the inside of the housing. Plenty of mesh in that upper grille as I mentioned, as well as in the lower section. Shelby is also written out, but not as many canards, nothing like that to give it that aggressive look, even though it still has a unique style. And as we work our way to the side for the ZL1 now, this has a set of 20-inch wheels with Brembo brakes, features 6 pistons up front and 4 pistons in the rear. The front rotors measure in at 15.3 inches and 14.4 inches in the rear. More gloss black is along the lower side skirt. This has body colored side mirrors, no sunroof for this model, but really nice lines running down the side. Not quite as aggressive as the front end, but still retains some aggressive lines. The fender arches have a really nice design. Over on the Mustang now, this has a really nice set of 19-inch wheels, has Brembo brakes with 6 pistons up front and 4 pistons in the rear, just like on the ZL1, and the rotors measure 15.5 inches up front and 15 inches in the rear, so slightly larger. This has black side mirrors, so they're not body colored, but really looks nice, matching all the rest of the black. No sunroof either, but this retains the stripes running down the middle. And there's even a trim piece just behind the front tire to add a little bit more aerodynamics for this model, along with having these side skirts. Really nice line comes off that trim piece as well, running right through the door handle. And then moving on to the back end of the ZL1, this has the 3D dimensions for the taillights with the quad to oval design on both sides, along with the turn signals. Really nice trunk mounted spoiler as well. has the backup camera with all the sensors, and then the quad tip dual exhaust is in the lower section. And then over on the Mustang, we have a lot more aggressive of a trunk mounted wing. It has a backup camera, the quad tip dual exhaust with a little bit more in the lower diffuser, and it even has the sequential turn signals, which is iconic for the Mustang with that 3D shape, just to give it a really nice and unique look. And then moving on to the interior for the ZL1, this model here has alcantara on the door panel with red stitching. The blue accents are aftermarket, but it gives it a great touch. And this even has the interior ambient lighting, memory seating adjustments, a release for the trunk too. Really nice door panel. I like all of the contoured lines, and there's a little bit of storage space down in that door panel. And then moving on to the seats, really nice sport bucket seat with two-tone. This has leather along with the alcantara, all of the red stitching, and some brushed aluminum accents. Gives you a really comfortable feel while you're driving this out on the road, good lateral support, and they are automatic seats. And then moving on to the Mustang for the interior, not quite as sporty as on the ZL1, has some really nice fabric to it with the two-tone design, all of the window controls, a little bit of storage space in the lower section of the door, and then these seats have a nice two-tone design as well. They are cloth, really nice Recaro bucket seats though. You can see the cutouts up top along with the lateral support, and these are manual adjusting seats. So unlike the Camaro, you do have to adjust these by hand. And then coming back to the interior for the ZL1, a really nice gauge cluster, nothing too fancy about it. There's a lot of information in that center LCD screen that you can go through. So there's a lot of vitals that you can monitor going into this various information, music navigation. There's a lot of performance data to look at as well from your G-force meter. You can look at a lot of timers too. So it's nice to have some of that front and center. And then over on the Mustang, a little bit smaller of a center screen. However, there are a few adjustments that you can go through with this screen, looking at some driving modes that you can control from the steering wheel as far as the steering and the suspension setup. There's also a lot of different driving modes that you can go through just depending on how you want to drive this. But the gauge cluster is pretty simple, doesn't have a whole lot of information to go through aside from that. And then moving to the center infotainment system, on the ZL1, we have the 8-inch touchscreen system with a lot of information to go through. This does have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It has the interior ambient lighting, as I mentioned earlier. So it's a great system to have. I really like how user-friendly it is. And the angle of it too is angled slightly down to avoid any sun glare. So it's a great position. And then underneath, all the climate controls are nicely laid out. The fans are also multifunctional buttons, so you can twist them to adjust the temperature as well as the fan speed, and I forgot to mention these are ventilated seats too. So really nice technology. I love the layout for the center. As we move on to the Mustang now, a little bit smaller of a screen, but it still provides you with a lot of usable information. This does have navigation, no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but it has a lot of settings that you can go through just to configure everything as needed. And then the buttons down below are laid out a little bit different, but it's really easy to go through. There's even some toggles for launch control, as well as being able to adjust the exhaust note. And then all the climate controls are just above that, nicely laid out as I mentioned. And then jumping to the back seats now for the ZL1, both of these vehicles are not meant for full 4-seaters, but it is nice to have that practical usable space if you need to use it. I'm 5'10", I could fit in the back around town in both of these vehicles. Headroom is obviously not as practical, but you can fit back there if you need to use it. It is a little bit tight with the seat all the way back, but obviously that is adjustable. This model here has red seat belts. We even have a wireless charging port right in the middle, which is nice and convenient to have. And the back seats do fold down as well, just making it a lot more practical for this two-doored sports car. And then over on the Mustang, same thing with getting into the back of the seat. It is manual adjusting, so you do have to slide it forwards just a little bit. And then with the room in the back, just like in the Camaro, you're not buying this for a full 4-seater, but as you can tell, I do have a little bit more headroom than the Camaro, so it's a little bit more practical. Still obviously not as comfortable as a full 4-seater, but it is doable for the space that's offered. And then the back seats have a 50-50 split, so unlike the Camaro, a little bit more usable if you only need to fold one down and you have a passenger in the other seat. And then that leads us on to the trunk space in the Camaro. So what's nice is there is a button up underneath, making it a lot more practical if you're daily driving this. The only drawback with the Camaro is that it has a narrow opening into the trunk. It's a large trunk, but the surround is just not as large as in the Mustang, so it's going to be a little bit tighter to get items in, but once they are in, definitely plenty of room. And then over on the Mustang, it has a button up underneath as well, and then a little bit larger of an opening, making it a little bit more practical. So there's a lot of room for both of these vehicles. And then in the Mustang, it even has some room up underneath the floor liner. So when you pull that up, there's some storage space that you can use. You could probably put a spare tire there if needed. You have the room to do that. So it's great to see that additional storage. The clutch is very lightweight. I love the shifter here. Finished off in Alcantara, has a really nice grip to it. And I don't have the rev matching on because I'd rather do it myself. And we're only in touring mode. I haven't even put it into track yet. But let's go ahead and put it into track. You can definitely tell the exhaust note does change between touring and the track setting there. I wouldn't say it's crazy fast, but I'm not going pedal to the floor, of course, since it's not my car, but it definitely gets up and scoots. It's not a slow car by any means. I do like the fact too that we have what gear you're in right in the center there. Now obviously you can know what gear you're in here, but I think it is cool to see if you're out on the track or something, you can just quickly look down and know what gear you're in. So if you lose track of that, it's really nice to have right in front of you. And so just now cruising, this is actually a really comfortable car. You could certainly daily drive this every single day. But this is so much fun. The rear view mirror, I currently have it on the camera system right now, and it's really kind of tripping me out. I'm not used to that at all, but hopefully my side camera there can see that angle, because that's kind of neat, especially for a vehicle like this that has a little bit tight of a visibility area here over that left shoulder. It's not bad. If you drive any vehicle for a long period of time, you get used to where there are any blind spots. You can adjust your side mirrors. I own an Audi R8 and it has worse visibility than this. So to me, this is actually pretty good. It's not all that bad. You will get used to it. And so now switching to the POV angle, you can get a feel for what it's like to be behind the wheel of the ZL1. So I'm sure from the camera angle there, you can see the rev matching paddle shifters on both sides and how bulky they are for being a redundant button. But aside from that, we do have a very nice interior. I love all the materials. We do have some plastic up on the dash here, but I think all the alcantara, the leather, all the stitching kind of makes up for some of those areas. I really like the feel of the clutch pedal and the shifter. It's a very smooth and engaging clutch pedal, and then the shifter, you can just feel that notch get you into the next gear. So it just gives you a little bit more confidence to know that you are in that gear. And it's a very short throw shifter. It has that short throw shifter feeling to it, which is really nice. And then just giving it a little bit of gas here in a second. Has a really nice sound to it. Ooh, sport mode. We're gonna have to go down to first gear here. Just give it a little bit of gas. I mean, and that's just parking lot speeds here. It sounds really good, so I couldn't imagine really opening this up and hearing it. I've been behind the wheel of V8 Mustangs before, and I know they handle really well. And I love that this one has the Alcantara steering wheel. Just has a really nice feel. And then real quick, just talking about visibility in a two-door vehicle like this, it's actually really easy to see all around. I like the windows that are in the back. Just gives you a lot more visibility over the pillars. They're really not all that bulky, so it's really nice how you can look over both shoulders, of course. You can even do the line lock, so you can do a standing burnout where it will lock the front brakes, disconnect the rear brakes, and that way you can get the tires warmed up and get this out on the drag strip. So that is awesome that you can get that in a factory vehicle, and this thing is ready to go. And so now coming back for the final thoughts between the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 and the Ford Mustang GT350. Honestly, both of these are very fun to drive. We've had a lot of seat time behind the wheel between both of these models, and I'm kind of torn on which one I would go with. I think I would go with the Camaro simply because I see Mustangs everywhere. They are a lot more popular in my area, at least, so I see them all of the time. I rarely see Camaros, so honestly I would go with the Camaro just because of that rare factor in not seeing them as much. I think the Camaro is a little bit more fun to drive. It's a little louder. Mustangs can be loud as well. They do have that stigma for running into crowds, spinning out. Obviously, that's just the stereotype that goes around. But I would honestly lean towards the Camaro, even though it has a little bit smaller space for that trunk. I think they're a lot of fun though. The Camaro does have a lot more horsepower than the GT350. However, they do have a similar 0 to 60 time. The Mustang weighs a lot less than the Camaro, so it's going to take turns a little bit better than the Camaro. Even though both of them are very track focused, they can take turns, they are going to handle extremely well. Let me know down below, are you a hardcore Camaro fan or are you a hardcore Mustang fan? I know there's going to be a lot of debate between both of these, but they are great options, and that's why they are both available depending on what you like and what you're going to enjoy. So I hope you enjoyed today's video with this side-by-side comparison with the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 and the Ford Mustang GT350. Give this video a huge thumbs up, comment down below which one you would take and why, and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.